Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. Today we're checking out this blue, black and red or Grixis colored wizard deck, and our commander is a pretty special one since it's the first time on Arena that we get to play with the Eminence ability, which is an effect that applies when our commander is just chilling in the command zone. Whenever a wizard enters a battlefield under our control, we can pay 1 extra mana to create a copy of that creature in the form of a token that will have haste and goes away end of turn. So our deck is filled to the brim with wizards that have fun enter the battlefield abilities, so we can get the most out of our commander. If we do end up casting it, we could eventually tap a bunch of wizards to deal 7 damage to our opponent, but we're not going to end up casting our commander very often, at least not if things are going according to plan. So then taking a look at our deck breakdown, I've split things up into a few different categories, starting with a bit of mana acceleration, since if we're looking to cast our wizards and pay 1 extra mana, it's good to have that spare mana to begin with. Then we've got lots of cheap interaction, since a lot of our wizards rely on casting instants and sorceries or getting them back from the graveyard, so then we want to be able to interact with the opponent, prolong the game, since a longer game is going to favor the one where a commander provides extra value whenever we cast a creature spell. And then we get to the fun part, which are the wizards. A lot of them will simply draw cards or provide card advantage in some way, can also make additional mana, or ideally also interact with the opponent's game plan by bouncing creatures and permanents or dealing damage to them. And then we've got some more wizard adjacent synergies that can maybe get a discount if we control a wizard or get an additional effect. And then our miscellaneous section has some cheap reanimation effects as well, since getting back a wizard is also still a way to pay the 1 and get the extra copy, so that can also provide more value. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with our accelerants, there's Kraum Mox and Dark Ritual to set up some broken starts, and then at 2 mana there's Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Guardian Idol, Mind Stone, Solar Transformer, and the Iron Crag. And then Urza's Incubator is perfect here, giving all our wizards a 2 mana discount, and most opponents are not going to have a ton of wizards in their deck, so they wouldn't benefit from that same discount. Then our interaction includes a few bounce spells in blue, Fading Hope and Into the Floodmaw. Wash Away is the only counter spell we're running, since we're more of a tap-out deck that wants to spend mana in its own turn. We don't have a ton of instants that we need to cast in the opponent's turn. And then some discard effects with Duress, Inquisition, and Thoughtseize play well in a more tap-out control deck. Then we still have some spot removal at 1 mana with Fatal Push in black. In red we have a Burst Lightning, Fiery Impulse, not too difficult to enable, and a Lightning Bolt. And then we've got some answers to maybe deal with Planeswalkers as well, with Bitter Triumph, Shieldred's Edict, and Angrath's Rampage. Can also hit artifacts, similar to a Braid. And then we get to the wizards, where we have Snapcaster Mage, maybe get some of those spells back out of the graveyard. There's Thundertrap Trainer, which can dig pretty deep to find more interaction. Timestream Navigator is pretty fun, since if we have enough mana to play it, copy it, and pay for mana with a token, since it will have haste, it can immediately tap and activate. We get to take an extra turn, and then we get to take another extra turn by sacrificing the original Navigator, assuming we have the City's Blessing. Then the Pyromancer can deal a bunch of damage to our opponent. Cloudkin Seer can draw cards. Seagate Oracle gets to look at the top 2 cards to put 1 in hand, so it's also card draw. Serum Visionary gets to draw a card and then scry 2. Exhibition Magician, 2/2 on Arena compared to the 2/1 paper version, can either make a chum-blocking citizen or more often make a treasure token. Then there's Elder, making one of those wizard tokens from Final Fantasy, which can also deal damage to an opponent whenever we cast a non-creature spell. Tomebound Lich can draw and discard, maybe setting up some of our graveyard synergies. Master of Waves is fun if we can keep the original copy alive, as we get to make a ton of elemental tokens that get buffed twice the turn we play Master and copy it, and then +1/+1 for the remainder while it's in play. Then there's a Micromancer, which can tutor up 1 mana instants and sorceries from our deck, can maybe even get a Flicker effect to do it all over again. There's Archaeomancer, which can return instants and sorceries from our graveyard. Shipwreck Dowser does the same on a bigger body. And then the Illusionist is legendary, but we can still pay the 1 to get an extra copy and draw a whole bunch of cards with all those ETB effects. Then our other wizards that offer some interaction include a lot of bounce effects. Harbinger returning tapped creatures, Exclusion Mage can bounce creatures, and then Baron can do the same. Another legend, but can also maybe bounce our own things with it, so we can pick up wizards with nice ETB effects and draw cards with a passive ability as well. Then we've got Aether Channeler, which can either bounce or draw, or even make a bird token, so it's quite flexible. The Tidecaller Mentor can also bounce opposing permanents back if we have Threshold enabled. And then we've got some red wizards that can deal damage to opposing creatures, Basalt Ravager and Firefist Adept, counting the number of wizards we control. Then there's the red Summon, which can deal damage equal to the number of non-creature, non-land cards in our graveyard. Ertai Resurrected, another legend, but can still copy it to destroy an extra creature. And Prophetic Titan, especially exciting with Delirium enabled, getting to deal 4 damage as well as find an extra card in the top 4. And then we've got more wizard synergies with Naban, doubling the enter the battlefield triggers of our wizards, similar to Harmonic Prodigy. This one's not legendary, so we can potentially copy it and then play more wizards and copy those as well, which can quickly go off. Then there's Wizard's Lightning, which is essentially a lightning bolt if we control a wizard. Flame of Anor, if we control a wizard, gets to choose 2 modes between drawing 2, destroying an artifact, or dealing 5 to a creature. There's Naru, pumping up our wizards, as well as maybe being able to copy an instant or sorcery that's on the stack. And then the sorcery here can also make additional wizard tokens and eventually transform, doubling the damage output of all our wizards. And Kindred Discovery can also draw some more cards for each wizard that's attacking or entering the battlefield. Then the miscellaneous section has Brainstorm as another cheap spell we can get back from the graveyard, good with our fetch lands to sculpt our draw. There's Essence Flux to flicker a creature, re-enabling its ETB effect, and we can pay the 1 once again. And then our reanimation effects, Reanimate, can get back any creature at the cost of some life, and Unearth limited to mana value 3 or less. And then the mana base has a few utility lands. The Laboratory, worth mentioning, can also maybe pick up a wizard again, so we can redeploy it and once again get its enter the battlefield ability. Otawara as a bounce effect. And then of course Cavern of Souls, making wizards uncounterable, also quite useful, even though we're not planning to cast our commander. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play, facing the combo of the Weaver with blue-red partner commander. Our hand seems fine. Just missing the wizards. For now, can play a Verdant's fetch. I want to say blue-black or black-red maybe. Surveil and Illusionist is a decent option, although we would prefer having cheaper wizards in play before we cast it. So maybe it's not quite good enough here. We can ritual it out. Yeah, let me keep it. And then ideally we find a cheaper wizard in the meantime. But it's still a good backup plan to at least draw a few cards. Opponent's got their own signets, can remove it with a Rampage. And now Oracle can pay the 1. So that seems good. More mana efficient than Rampage. And we do want lands, but for now we have some removal already, so maybe I can take the Master. And Flame would be great too, although we could just take the land here. Although Flame's somewhat likely to draw me a land. Alright, this might be a little greedy, but let's try it. Hit you for 1. So if our wizard survives, next turn we could deal 5 to a creature, destroy an artifact, or destroy an artifact, draw 2. Alright, Narset is going to make it a little bit harder to draw extra cards. So Oracle does get around Narset, Visionary does not. Now Rampage could also take care of it, so we do have options. Flame only deals damage to creatures. So maybe, let's see. Yeah, I could of course also use Dark Ritual. Opponent can make blue with the Mox, thanks to Narset, so they do have 2 mana up. So maybe we just start with Rampage, hit your Narset, and see where we're at. Opponent remains. And of course we don't have the right colors to recast it because of the Iron Crag. So I guess we'll just hit you for 1 and pass. So yeah, not taking the land last turn, maybe backfiring a little bit. Although who would have seen Narset coming? Opponent's got a play here for 5 mana maybe. Or Mischance. cannot cast spells this turn. So, yeah, don't want to really flame here since I don't get to draw because of Narset. Can maybe flame in the opponent's turn. At least we hit our land drop. I mean, our hand's pretty stacked if we can deploy it in time. Opponent's got to commit memory combo with Narset. That's pretty brutal. I can destroy an artifact to prevent them from casting it for a turn. So yeah, I guess we have to flame in their upkeep. Destroy artifacts. I can draw one card. So at least they wouldn't be able to memory right now. And then we have Rampage to deal with Narset, perhaps. Alright, so strange game. Opponent got to assemble a 2-card combo in a singleton deck and was very close to pulling it off. If they had cast memory with Narset in play, we don't get to draw any cards or one card, and the opponent gets a full hand. But now things should be more manageable if we finally get to cast our spells. Never mind, opponent reanimates a troll as well, another powerful combo. What can I do about it? Not much. Fatal Push is not enabled. And Narset minuses, so at least now it's within range of a Burst Lightning as well. And our opponent found a Swords, still has a Ragavan they can cast. That one I can Fatal Push. Should I go for it, or do I keep a Revolted Fatal Push to maybe answer Vivi? Also have Rampage, so I think we're fine to push Ragavan. We redraw Ironcrag, and then a Rampage make you sacrifice a creature. Could also put Dark Ritual to use. Because yeah, even if they cast a memory without Narset in play, I would still prefer deploying my hand. So then I can Ritual out an Ironcrag. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to cast much else if we want to deal with Narset, which is of course a priority. Yeah, let me start with Rampage. See what they want to get rid of. Troll's gone. So now I could attack Narset. I mean, they're gonna block with Vivi, but you never know. Okay. Let me just Ritual out this Ironcrag. And then I don't have to Burst Lightning now. I can wait for them to cast the memory half. So Narset down. So at least we both get to draw a fresh hand. Alright, and that's a pretty good hand to start out. So Channeler can bounce Vivi. The other one can maybe draw a card. And then we want to try and set up Navigator so we can take some extra turns. So let's start with Channeler. Pay the 1. Opponent seems to have a free counterspell in hand. Pact of Negation. Fair enough. Vivi makes it pretty easy to pay for it. So then now Trainer pay the 1. Or I can just reanimate the Channeler. It seems better. Let's see, I guess we can just win here. Bouncing Vivi, bouncing Mox Amber. Opponent doesn't have double blue, or just bouncing Vivi is good enough. Yeah, don't even have to bounce the Mox, since it doesn't produce blue. Opponent goes to their upkeep, doesn't have 3 and double blue to pay, and loses to their own pact. Awesome, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Odric, mono white. Our hand has a bit of ramp, some interaction. Can maybe get lucky and surveil a creature into the graveyard to then reanimate. Could use something that costs 3 or 4 mana to then copy with our commander. Brainstorm is pretty decent too. Start with a surveil, and then I'll keep a lightning bolt. So next turn we could bolt the giver, still maybe brainstorm and shuffle 1 card away. Could also go for transformer, so we have a few options already. Opponent with a caretaker, so they can make an extra 1/1 version of a creature in hand. So still looking to bolt giver of runes over the caretaker, and then could just play a tap land and save myself the damage. And I should probably bolt now, in case they have some instant speed interaction. Odric at 3 toughness, we can also maybe hope to Wizard's Lightning. Alright, Thalia. Quite punishing for non-basic lands here. So, what do we want to do about it? I guess just play Transformer, and then a tapped Tarn. And then next turn we can maybe Wizard's Lightning alongside a Harbinger. If we Harbinger, pay the 1, we can bounce 2 creatures back. So it's a pretty good tempo play against aggro. But our opponent's got an exercise for my artifact. So there goes that plan. Can still Harbinger, pay the 1. Although then they also get to pick up the caretaker to give something offspring once again. Yeah, interesting spots. Nothing to really reanimate outside of the giver. So maybe we do run out a Harbinger here. No attack since our creature entered tapped. Opponent replays the caretaker. Yeah, we maybe could have ordered the triggers, so we bounced Thalia, and then the token could have attacked for 2 last turn. Opponent now going for Buzzry, also stuck on 3 lanes. So now, could Brainstorm, and then the Surveil is kind of like a mini shuffle effect. Sure. Can also help set up our Reanimate, potentially. So if I put the Titan on top, and then surveil it into the graveyard with Theater, I can reanimate it and pay the 1. Although, are we going to have Delirium enabled? Not quite. We have instant land. And we would get sorcery as well. But missing a 4th type. Also picked up a fetch lane, so we could just shuffle with Brainstorm. Although I'm kind of liking the reanimate line. Guess we don't have to go for it this turn yet. But I can put it in the graveyard. And then wait a little bit longer to set up the reanimates. So Harbinger we're okay trading, although for now it does enable Wizard's Lightning. Yeah, I guess we take the trade and then Edict. Opponent replays Thalia. So I guess we'll give them the opportunity to sack it to the Edict if they want. But they're probably not gonna comply. Alright, so if I go for the Reanimate play, we add Sorcery. So then we should have Delirium. For now we could still go for Magician and wait for more targets for the Titan to remove. And then Magician pay the 1, make some treasures. Or maybe a treasure and a citizen. Let's just go treasures. And then Wizard's Lightning can also take care of Thalia, keep Fatal Push. Could see an Offspring creature now. The Wingmare, in fact, with Offspring, making non-creature spells cost 1 more. Okay, so I guess we can take it out and pay the 1. It's probably easier to just deal with Thalia, honestly. And then I'll just pay 3 for my reanimates. That seems fine. Can also cast our commander, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Yeah, let's maybe surveil one more time first. Although never mind, I guess we drew all the surveil lands already. So then Xander's Lounge it is. And get back Titan. Pay the 1. Find Burst Lightning. And Otawara, probably. So I would have liked more creatures. But yeah, still get to attack here. Have a bunch of removal available. Treasure token also enables Revolt for Fatal Push. Smile at Death can return creatures with power 2 or less each turn. But that's in their upkeep, so they'll have to wait a while. And Otawara can bounce it in the meantime. There we go, Cloudkin. Pay the 1, draw 2. And find a Time Stream Navigator, which can set up 2 additional turns. Let's see, so next turn I can play it. Pay the 1, pay 4, so that works. For now we could play Trainer, pay the 1. Next turn they get to return Wingmare and maybe the Caretaker. At least they can't Offspring if they get it back with Smile at Death. Yeah, that seems reasonable. So let me play Otawara to keep the treasure. And that's the swing and a miss. And now Duress. I could cast. Yeah, I guess we don't need the treasure for Navigator next turn. So I can have a look. But yeah, their hand is likely just creatures. Okay. Bonus at 10. And next turn Navigator. Pay the 1, the hasty copy, assuming they don't have a way to return Thalia, but yeah, Thalia has power 3, so Smile at Death cannot return it. And then with Navigator we can immediately activate the hasty copy to get an extra turn, since we have the City's Blessing, and then we should be able to figure it out from there. Archivist with Offspring. And I guess they had Offspring twice from the Caretaker. So, don't want to be searching our library if we can avoid it. So, attack. And then next turn I can take another extra turn if we activate the other Navigator. While maybe clearing a path. Opponent can double block the Titan. That works. Inquisition can now potentially take a creature, but let's see here. So I can Burst Lightning the Wingmare, Could also plate kicked to go face, but then we don't get to activate Navigator. I think we just want to clear a path for an attack. So now I can push the Archivist. But we can likely just end it here. Opponent takes it. Get to untap one more time. Blood Maw, bounce a token. Bitter Triumph, take care of the other one. And that should be a lethal attack. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing the Emperor, so Naya, big creatures. Dark Ritual can maybe set up something powerful. Our hand's a little clunky outside of it. Still missing double blue for Archaeomancer and Naru. But yeah, this is still tempting. What does my turn look like? Surveil, hope to find a blue source, and then can ramp out Kuja and start making wizard tokens, perhaps. I'll try it still. For now, Surveil, prioritize mana. Opponent ramping with Paradise Druid, can maybe Fairy Impulse it once it's tapped. So I could just Dark Ritual Kuja. Maybe that's better instead of going for Duress. Just get a bit of a board presence here. And since it's legendary, we weren't gonna pay the one regardless. Opponent with a Wild Guide with Offspring. And we found the land. So this turn, Duress, Impulse, the Wild Guide. Alright, opponent's got all creatures in hand, to be expected. So I guess I can wait to get another Wizard token and then Impulse. And then Wild Guide seems like the scarier card. And then I can still Surveil end of turn. And look for more mana. It's gonna be a Dracosaur for starters. And I'll take the Catacomb. So let's see here. If you control 4 or more wizards, so it would transform end of turn. So that's good to know. For now, Archaeomancer could get back Dark Ritual. Although I can't pay the 1. But then next turn I can maybe Prophetic Titan and pay the 1 to do some damage. Sure. So I've got a 4/6, and now if my wizards deal damage, they deal double the damage. What can our opponent come up with? They've got some powerful options to choose from, but as far as we know, nothing that can remove our transformed Kuja. So now Emperor into Invasion. They can attack the invasion with a Dracosaur to transform it, make a 4/4, triggering the Emperor. Alright, Essence Flux, also pretty strong with Archaeomancer. Let's see here, Dark Ritual step 1. Then if I Essence Flux, Archaeomancer, pay the 1, I can get back Dark Ritual and Essence Flux. So that's a pretty nice loop, although we're eventually going to run out of blue mana. Yeah, I guess we Dark Ritual. Trigger a bunch of wizards, which deal double the damage with our transformation here. Essence Flux Archaeomancer. Get it back, pay the 1. And then, yeah, at some point we cast our Titan, which can also deal 4 damage to any targets, including the opponent, which also gets doubled here, so that's 8 damage each. So we should be able to just burn them out here. Alright, that was satisfying. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Voja, so Naya Elf deck. Can be quite scary, especially since we don't really have many sweepers in the deck. This hand, however, seems promising. Although I kind of want to keep all my colored spells, but I have to pitch one to the Chromox. Alright, Fire Fist is probably what we want to try and ramp into and double it so we have some removal. The Magician could be a way to make extra treasure. Mage is a way to bounce creatures, so that can also buy time. Could maybe just start with a tapped Marsh and not Chromox yet, although if I Chromox now and I draw an untapped land, I could play Magician and pay the 1 next turn. So that seems worth it. So then maybe we get rid of the Exclusion Mage or the Essence Flux, although Flux, Copy, Adapt one more time seems decent. So yeah, we're going for destroy their creatures as opposed to bouncing them. And Gwenna is pretty scary already, since that can set up Voja next turn. But we drew the untapped lands, so we can Magician pay the 1, make some treasure. So I could now cast Essence Flux, pay the 1 again. Although of course eventually we're gonna run out of Essence Flux, so it's not an infinite combo. Opponent takes it, got our free damage in. So Voja has Ward 3, that's pretty steep. So I likely can't remove it with the Adepts first time around, but we can maybe take care of their other mana creatures. And Gwenna does get to untap. And that +1 counter is also quite relevant. And a Sculptor. Alright, so I can play Fire Fist and pay the 1. First make the copy, then resolve the damage. So yeah, I can deal 3 damage twice. So I probably deal with Sculptor and Halfling as opposed to going for Gwenna. Now if I were to Essence Flux, I can't pay the 1. So probably not worth it. Got in for 3. So yeah, we're doing some cool things, but turn 3 Voja might still beat us. Especially since now their elves get to grow even larger, so it's going to be quite difficult to take anything out with a Fire Fist. Dulcimir also maybe gets to fight here. Let's see. When a wolf you control attacks, if Dulcimir attacked, so should be safe for now. But that is +1 wolf, +1 elf, so they get to draw more cards. So currently 3 elves means 3 +1 counters on all their creatures. Yeah, that's probably game over here. Yeah, if they didn't have Ward 3 on Voja, I could have maybe taken it out. But now we're just too far behind. Anything we can hope to top deck. A Rampage is reasonable, but not going to be good enough here. So Essence Flux, Fire Fist, pay the 1. We once again have 3 wizards in play, so it doesn't take care of much. Guardian Idol, sadly not a wizard. So Tolsimir down. And that should do it. Alright, so even with Chromox and a pretty explosive hand, we were nowhere close to beating Voja. Yeah, this is a pretty messed up commander at the end of the day. Sylvala, also pretty good, but they're not going to need it. GG's. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Tsagan. Mardu, start your engines. Our hand's missing red mana. Although, with any third land, Visionary pay the 1 should help us out. Still play Swamp in case we draw Mountain and can Rampage on 2. And I can always play Visionary without copying it if we really just need to hit our land drop. Having a wizard in play sets up our flame as well. Opponent's got the Thrill Seeker, one of the better ways to get your engine started early on. Alright, I'll still go for Visionary pay the 1, that way flame is enabled next turn as well. Find Thoughtseize, and then probably prioritize the land now. We have plenty of creatures already. And then Unearth could be fun, although Wizard's Lightning also good interaction to have. So we could keep both. Maybe Unearth first. And then I guess we'll hit for 2, but our opponent can just block. So then we'll see if they run out Tsagan. If they do, I'm more incentivized to chump and prevent them from getting their speed up too much. Although then again, I could let speed go to 3, and then next turn flame, take out Tsagan, draw, and I can still maybe Thoughtseize. Yeah, that's fine too. It's gonna be hard to keep them from ever getting to max speed. So, flame, deal 5, draw 2. And then probably want to Thoughtseize before we Surveil. Alright, so lots of spells. Surveyor, another Start Your Engines card. Knight, missing double white. Don't think we care too much about any one specific card. So I guess maybe the Knights, once they do find white mana, can be pretty decent. Or I can take the Ocelots, which is always kind of scary. Let's take the Ocelots. Surveil, Chromox I'll keep. And then may as well attack for 2 if I'm not going to chump. Although I could consider it now with Unearth. So a lot of options coming up. Opponent just running out Lizard Blades and Chaplain. Yeah, let's jump. And then we want to step 1, Unearth the Visionary, pay the 1. Hit more land drops, Channeler's good too. And then another land afterwards. Although I guess we'll end up shuffling here with a Vista. So let me start by hitting for 2. If they double block, I can maybe Wizard's Lightning the Lizard Blades. And then just go Guardian Idol, play Vista and pass. Don't need to Chromox just yet. So we can draw the Channeler. Jump with Visionary again, so Arcane Proxy can get back on Earth and get it back. So we're setting up a very nice value chain. I could actually deny the Knight its extra land if I just fetch with Vista and not search up any lands. But the opponent's going for a Voice of Victory instead. And an Adventure, so another first strike Death Touch creature potentially. Happy to jump. Take my turn. And then step 1 could be to fetch an island. Arcane Proxy. Could also cast it for 7 mana, to be fair. With Chromox, I can still pay the 1, which then gets back Wizard's Lightning and Flame. I guess now that I read Arcane Proxy more carefully, the copy wouldn't be cast, so it does not get back something from the graveyard. So then I could still cast it for 7 mana, just get back Flame, which is still a 3 for 1. Or we can take a slightly different approach, play Channeler, and bounce some of the opponent's creatures back, and take it from there. Prophetic Titan, a good answer to Tsagan as well. So we'll bounce the Adventure, pay the 1, bounce Voice. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough at this point, we're just doing whatever we want. And then next turn, Prophetic Titan with Delirium, pay the 1, can answer Tsagan if they find land 5 to cast it. And then either way, we have more ways to recur spells out of our graveyard to get more interaction and pull further and further ahead onto the next one. Alright, we're on the draw, facing Tatyova, blue-green landfall. Hand has potential. Hopefully we can combine Prodigy with some more ETB effect. And turn 1, I probably want to Inquisition. Does mean I don't get to Surveil, but the Lich can also help find lands. And then I want black-red if I want to play Prodigy turn 2. Since a Ritual Enter tapped. And Veil of Summer and Provisioner. Veil of Summer, I guess, is not going to be super difficult to play around. Provisioner is going to be a threat, so we can take that away. And then they might end up just cycling the Veil. Alright, so step 1 Prodigy, and then next turn we can already get the benefit from the ability here. Possible they drew into a counterspell, since they could have gotten the passage out of the way, but on the other hand they might want to keep it for landfall purposes. So now it will enter tapped. Ooh, Virtue I guess can copy the passage trigger. That's a neat interaction, and of course another reason to hang on to it. So they did get to ramp after all. Still have that Veil of Summer up. So we could Dark Ritual out, a Seagate, pay the 1, and that way we can ensure more land drops in the future. And with Prodigy we get a lot of value out of it too. So I think that's worth it. And then we'll still have a mana left, which we can maybe put to use. Although with the Veil of Summer, a discard spell is not all that exciting. Fatal Push does not take care of Tatyova. I do want more lands. So probably could have waited to play my land out for a turn in case we drew a tapped land. Although now Reanimate's pretty exciting. Can get back the Provisioner at the very least. And Mentor. Maybe go for the land now. Although there's a bounce spell, so there's interaction. Maybe we use the Lich to set up the Reanimate next turn. Now I can take the Vista as another land. And then hit you for 3. I mean, reanimating Provisioner wouldn't be a terrible idea with Vista coming up. If opponent casts a blue, spells you control can be the target. You and permanents you control gain hexproof. So it doesn't count the graveyard really. I think I still like the idea of reanimating the Titan more. So let's just pass. Alright, opponent just passing with 4 mana up. Can Visionary pay the 1 or Lich? I would like to reanimate and pay the 1 with Titan, especially if we get to Delirium. So then I can maybe wait to reanimate next turn, and for now just copy the Lich. Set up the graveyard for Mentor and for reanimate. That resolves. So we'll discard the Titan. Chromox is nice. What do we discard now? Kindred Discovery. Good way to get to Delirium as well. Yeah, I don't think I'll need Discovery since we have so much card draw from Visionary already. And it's a little bit pricey. Now a land can go. And a Trainer is a nice leftover. So then what's left to discard? Maybe Watery Grave. Alright. Attack. No need to Chromox yet. And then next turn we have a lot of options, including the Reanimate plan. Trigger twice thanks to Prodigy. I guess we don't really need the fetch land now. Alright, pass it back. So we're making good progress. Opponent can now play Tatyova with Veil backup. So then the protection from blue here is actually relevant for stopping the Prophetic Titan from targeting Tatyova. Or targeting the opponent, I guess, with a Veil as well. So then we can maybe bait it out with a Mentor. And then I don't need to pay the 1 here. So we can keep attacking, although our opponent might let that happen and just keep the Veil of Summer in hand for next turn, after they replay Tatyova. So it's an interesting spot. Could just play Trainer and go digging, and likely find more relevant interaction. Sure. And get a lot of triggers. And there we go, Sheoldred's Edict is the perfect answer to this situation. Gets around their Veil of Summer. And a Fiery Impulse. So options are plenty. And our opponent's gonna scoop it up at this point, since we have Tatyova covered. Fiery Impulse also gets around Veil of Summer. So then I could maybe Fiery Impulse Tatyova, and then I could still Chromox, and then reanimate something, pay the 1, which would be pretty decent. Although getting back Titan while they have Veil of Summer up, still a little bit underwhelming, since we would miss out on at least 8 damage. But yeah, pretty decent options available. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play, facing Vivi, so another very powerful wizard. Do need to find removal for it, the sand's probably not gonna work. Alright, this is a bit better. And then tapped Steam Vents is probably fine. Could also maybe get lucky with Reanimate if we mill an expensive wizard into the graveyard. So we'll get the Theater. Pyromancer. So that's 3 mana to just play it, or next turn I could already reanimate it, which is a fun play, but maybe not quite powerful enough. And I can keep the reanimate for something else. So then for now we can pass with Burst Lightning and Sheoldred's Edict available. Fetch another Surveil land, maybe setting up a reanimate. Could also do that now, but there's a small chance we can Edict. Eidetic Memory can also grow Vivi right away. But yeah, it's not like Burst Lightning can take care of it, so Edict was always going to be your answer. And a Fabled Passage I'll draw. So we can play Oracle and pay the 1. For now we get 6 damage in. And then we kind of hope they just tap out for Vivi. It's uncounterable, but opponent's got a Burgi first. So they definitely seem more like a Storm combo deck. So I could attack with a Pyromancer. If they block Burst Lightning, can finish off Burgi. And then we have a few options from there. Could also play Oracle, pay the 1 and be tapped out. But that could set up a turn for the opponent where they get to storm off. So that's dangerous. Yeah, I'll start here, see if they block. Yeah, opponent takes it. So then I think it's just Edict, Burgi, and then hope they don't go for Vivi. So let me make sure to tap correctly. And then we have to take a look at the opponent's creatures as something we can also maybe reanimate. Opponent plays uncounterable Vivi, of course, they don't have to worry about the double blue with Cavern. 1 mana up. I'll take my turn. And Naru could be pretty interesting too. And growing the Pyromancer at instant speed. So let's attack. Opponent takes it, so now I think I'll try Burst Lightning, copy it with Naru. And hope that 1 mana cannot interfere. Because if they have a counterspell here, it could be pretty bad for me. So in full control, cast Burst Lightning, targeting Vivi. Could also try going face, so at least if they counter 1 Burst Lightning, it's not a disaster. Paying the 1 could be useful if we just want to copy a spell an additional time, but of course Naru is legendary. And our opponent bolts Pyromancer, but it's still within range of double Burst Lightning. So I guess they saved themselves 3 damage. Alright, that worked out, all things considered. And then now we can play Oracle, pay the 1, or reanimate Pyromancer, pay the 1. All wizards getting pumped as well. And a Braid could be an answer to the Signet. So if I cast Oracle, somewhat likely to get countered, but then I can still reanimate, pay the 1. So we'll start here. Alright, that resolves. So then I'll keep black mana up for reanimates. And Wash Away, I guess not super useful with Cavern in circulation. Take the Chromox. And Maybe Guardian Idol's better at this point. So I can Chromox, pitching a Braid, and then still reanimates Pyromancer, pay the 1. Let's see if this works. Opponent wants to bounce Chromox, we can just float mana in response. And still pay the 1. And that'll do it. Awesome. Alright, so we get to see this Grixis Wizard deck in action. And yeah, our commander is pretty busted. Getting value without ever needing to cast it is quite powerful. No real great way for the opponent to interact with it. So as long as we draw the right wizards, this deck can do some pretty busted things, but it does take a while to get going. Some of the wizards aren't necessarily the best creatures in the game, so it is still a bit of a build around, but it's the type of deck that can only get better with time as more wizards are added to the game. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.